Councilmember Linda Combs.
Here.
Councilmember Steve Carrington.
Here.
Councilmember Julie Bobrick.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Pete LaFrance.
Here.
Mayor Edna DeVries.
Here.
We have a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And we'll have to do all of the vote by roll call. Okay, good. All right. If you'd all stand, please. And Councilman Kohler, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The other thing is we can combine all three of these in one motion.
Okay, good idea. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda, including the approval of the consent agenda and the approval of the minutes of our previous meeting on February 12th. The consent agenda consists of action memorandum number 19-030, authorizing the city manager to purchase new self-contained breathing apparatus to include tools and associated equipment in the amount of $238,021 from Alaska Safety Incorporated under the Governmental and Proprietary Procurement section of the Palmer Municipal Code 3.21.230. Action memorandum number 19-031, accepting board member Davey Petty's resignation from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the approval of the minutes from February 12th. What is the wishes of the council?
Madam Mayor, I move the council approves the agenda as stated.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. Comments, amendments? Okay, Madam Clerk, if you'll take the roll, please.
Councilmember David Fuller.
Yes.
Councilmember Sabrina Combs.
Yes.
Councilmember Linda Combs.
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Carrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Julie Bobrick.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pete LaFrance.
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is communications and appearances requests and presentation from Centec Consulting Services. And Katrina, I'm going to come forward, and Brad, would you bring up another chair for the ladies, please? Sorry, I'm a little bit old school. No bonus for him this year. Go ahead, turn the mic
And then
on.
does it just stay on?
It should. If it doesn't, the red light will turn off. Just wait.
Okay.
Okay.
You should have PowerPoint if you want to check that. There you go. Perfect.
Okay, and if you'll state your names, please, for the record. Thank you.
Katrina Nygaard, Stantec Consulting Services.
And I'm Wendy Van Dyne, Stantec Consulting Services.
Madam Mayor, Council, thanks for having us tonight to give an update on the downtown Palmer area-wide planning process. We were here in January to sort of kick things off and back for a couple days to really engage with the community. So I just wanted to give a quick overview of the project, where we've come so far, and then talk about some of the key issue areas we're going to be engaging different property owners, stakeholders, developers, the general public on in the next couple days. So, as many of you are aware, this project is coming from a grant from the Mat-Su Borough by way of the EPA. In 2016, the borough won a large grant to identify potential brownfields, sites that might have petroleum or other hazardous substances on them, but also look at some redevelopment planning. So Wasilla is doing planning around their train depot relocation, and here in Palmer, we're going to be doing some planning around the downtown. And so those two projects will really help to support what to do with some of the potential sites that were identified, but also just the broader community planning in general. So our study area is really looking at the core area where all of the borough offices are, on the east side of downtown, with a focus on the Matt-May block as a potential for redevelopment. And so we're going to be working with folks to see how can we, better connect this to all the great assets in downtown already. How do we make, in many ways, what you guys were talking about with the parks folks earlier, how do we make, really this great sense of place here in Palmer? And so our process is that we're learning the existing conditions and the past planning work that's been done to date. Also some of that market and economic development type issues and existing conditions. We're going to pair that with the things that we hear from the community and the key stakeholders, and then go back to our desks and start brainstorming some ideas based on that feedback about how this site could be redeveloped. And then the final steps will really be to take all of those ideas and designs and really tie it to an implementation plan that you can move forward with on the public side, and then also attract private investment to do their part as well. So just a quick background on these brownfields. I wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page here. If you hear that word coming up, what that might mean. And so brownfields are really a broad category defined by the EPA for sites that may or may not have contamination on them, but for some reason they're really struggling to redevelop. Maybe it's because of public perception, maybe because of its actual environmental hazard. But there's lots of examples of what these sites could be. It could be anything from a vacant lot to an old gas station to a former dry cleaners, even old shopping centers and vacant buildings. If they have things like lead paint or asbestos in them, those are hazardous materials that have to be cleaned up appropriately. You can't just tear things down and start from scratch as easily. And so these planning processes really help us to identify where these sites might be, and then do the appropriate cleanup so that when a developer comes in, or if the city comes in and owns the site, then they can move forward in a safe and efficient way. So over the next couple days, we're going to be talking about some of the key issues around this part of downtown Palmer. The first is really land use and zoning, and we really just want to understand what's on the ground today, both physically in terms of land use, but also in the regulatory environment. What does our zoning code say? What is allowed? What is not? And does that match what people want? Is the community asking for one thing and your code's allowing something else? How can we rectify that? A question for developers, real estate folks might be, how can we make things a little bit easier? What can assist our process for development approvals, that sort of thing. We're also not ignoring all of the great past planning work that you've done. So if you're on that land use and zoning slide, you'll see there's a middle picture of a bunch of lines and rectangles. That's from the UW Growth Study about 10-15 years ago, where they really identified the depot as the heart of downtown Palmer. We want to test ideas like that to see, are these still relevant? If they are, how can we build off that and make that, move towards implementation? The next issue we're going to look at is transportation and connectivity. So how does downtown Palmer, how do you move through downtown Palmer if you're in a car, on a bike, if you're walking? How do you do that in the middle of summer or the middle of winter in a way that's safe and convenient and great to get around for events? How do you use the trail network? How do you take advantage of all the great amenities in the Palmer area in a really efficient way? And then finally, we're going to be looking at some of the open space and wayfinding and beautification efforts that can happen in this area too, tying again to a lot of the work that's already going on. And so Wendy is our landscape architect on the project, and she's going to be helping us out a lot with these issues. Anything you'd like to add?
I think, first of all, we're very happy to be here this evening and to be spending some time in your community over the next few days and visiting with a wide variety of folks to gain insights and perspectives on how this area can be reactivated and re-energized to better serve the community. I think just hearing your perspectives on green spaces and parks and recreation amenities is really enlightening to us and gives us a good sense of the values that your community holds dear and what you would like to see in terms of different ways in which this property can be reutilized and better activated to serve the community. So while Katrina and I are here over the next few days, from a landscape architecture perspective, we've worked with a number of small communities similar to Palmer and looking at sites like this that are underutilized and figuring out different amenities, whether they be green spaces or parks or, meeting areas or amphitheater spaces, performance spaces that can really benefit and provide, a unique space for the residents here and contribute to the overall character and beautification of the downtown district. So while we meet with various stakeholders throughout the community and with residents at large on Thursday evening at our open house, we're very open to listening to residents and hearing their ideas for how this space can be utilized, because ultimately this is going to be a community feature and we want to make sure that whatever we do is aligned with the ideas and the goals of the city and its residents.
So that's all of the slides that I had prepared for tonight. I hope that if you have any questions or comments, we can address those while we're here. And as a reminder, we've got our big public open house coming up on Thursday night, 6 p.m. over at the Depot. And so please share with your networks, your constituents. We'd love to have a great turnout and really have folks share their perspectives.
Any comments from council? No? I guess not. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Wendy. Okay, the next item on our agenda is reports. City manager's report.
I actually got one put together as opposed to the last couple meetings that we haven't anything written. So I'm getting away from the statistics. Not that the statistics don't matter, but after looking at them for last year, there really isn't that much change. So if I do see some anomaly, and I still will get those. If I do see an anomaly, then I'll bring it to council and say, okay, look, we've got a spike in traffic because of the state fair or whatever reason. So what I will really look to do now is just give you some highlights of what's going on day to day in those departments. Now I won't read them verbatim, but you can see the police department's been out and about several places throughout the city, and also working with several different teams throughout the community to address problems as they come up. Fire department, really a lot of training going on. I do want to highlight the confined space class in California. There's not an opportunity to get that training here, so it may sound like something, confined space, California, really vacation. No, confined space is a huge area of safety concern, and you may not think about it when you're going into your attic as being a confined space, but our public works department, our fire departments are going into places that aren't ventilated. When you go into a sewer manhole, when you're going into a smoking room, so there are procedures in place that have to be put in place before you do those things. And we could get in a lot of trouble if we don't have somebody trained and certified to provide overwatch and also to conduct training internally. You don't have to be certified. Well, you do have to go through the training before you go into any confined space. Before you go into a hole, you have to be trained. So I couldn't just jump into a manhole. And I lived this in my previous job with Kellogg's. As a supervisor, I wanted to see what guys were doing. Well, I couldn't go into the boiler that was cold because I wasn't certified. I actually couldn't even stick my head in the opening because I wasn't certified. So it's serious business. So when you see something like this, if it jumps out at you, why are we going to California? Well, this is some very serious training that we need for. Just so happens the gentleman that went is in both public works and the fire department, so we get a 2-for on that one. The piece about Emmitsburg, that was actually Todd that went to that. Sitting on a board that evaluates grants is the next best thing to having your grant accepted, because you get to see how grants are written, you get to see what the boards are approving. So having him be invited to sit on that board is going to be a great asset for us. Public Works, you can see what's going on. I just want to add that with the warm weather the last couple of days, they're focused on storm drains and potholes now. 'Tis the season, but we're getting on it. If you see flooding or if folks see flooding, be sure to call Public Works and let us know where it is. But they are out and about, and they probably already know about it, just haven't gotten there yet. There was on Cobb Street potholes that are out fixing those, and there was a big flood down by Mousetrap and the post office. But again, we're on those and getting those storm drains. If they're most of them are plugged, the drain themselves, the big pipes are open. It's just a matter of getting the openings flushed out. So we're working on those as we speak. Finance, just an interesting tidbit. We've processed 1,322 business licenses plus the 51. That's about half of what we have throughout the year. We had 2,448 last year. I would tell you that this number will probably double when the state fair comes around, because we don't have any of the state fair folks on this. We don't have any of the Friday Fling folks, the ones that have the special pop-up licenses, so that's still to come. And our financial audit starts next week, right here in this room, and they'll be here for a week. And then our finance director goes on vacation, and then she comes back, and then they come back. So welcome back from your vacation with the final part of our audit. The building department report is for year-to-date comparison. So as far as valuation goes, this is our second highest month in the last 10 years. Is that something to get excited about? I'm excited because there's a $4 million car wash, convenience store, gas station going in into a piece of property that used to be a gas station. So that's exciting to see that construction ongoing and started, and their intent is to be ready by spring. Number of building permits is the sixth highest year out of 10 years. It just shows that people are still building regardless of the weather. So that's a good news item. You can see the radio schedules. Who's coming up on the radio if you want to hear Radio Free Palmer inside the city. Those are the people that are supposed to show up on those dates. And I don't generally get a phone call from the radio station, but that's who's going to be there. And then way out there, I'm planning on taking my first real vacation after 3 years as city manager. I think y'all can do without me for a little bit, but that's on the horizon. And one last note about the AWP study that's ongoing. They will be back to have a special meeting with the council in June is what we're looking at. We asked them to come back in June to see Colony Days, because that is when the city is the most crowded in the time frame of this study. The study has to be done by September, so they could come to Colony Christmas, but it'll be gone. So when they're back in June, they'll have initial feedback from this first session. You're all welcome, well, 3 of you to go tomorrow night to listen and provide input, but your chance to actually give direction and things like that will come later in June with this group. So that's all I have tonight.
Okay. Any questions, comments to the city manager or regarding his report or anything else? Okay, if not, then Madam Clerk, we're ready for your report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have just a couple of things that I want to mention here. Nothing specific out of the written report other than the upcoming events and the sister city travel. So specifically the events, we have 3 events upcoming that we were not aware of until after the publication and writing of the report. Council members have seen this tonight. It's the Airfield Safety Improvement Open House at the airport, and that's on March 19th. Palmer High School graduation, and Madam Mayor just answered that. We only have 1 council member attending that night, so we'll have a quorum for that evening.
Okay.
And that comes up in question because it is always the second Tuesday of the month. And so there's that, do we have a quorum, do we not, what do we need to do for the evening? So I appreciate the council's quick response to that. So now we know what to do here, because that meeting will come up pretty quickly. And then we have the Brownsfield Open House that Nate had mentioned earlier. So those are the 3 events that are on my radar that I'm aware of that you guys have mentioned to me. And Nate, you have one more?
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
I forgot to mention that tomorrow I'm the guest speaker at the chamber,
Oh, yeah.
so that may be something that the council may or may not wish to attend.
Right. I guess I'm going to attend, right?
And the mayor is also introducing me, so the mayor will be this one for sure.
Okay. The one thing that's not in the written report that I do want to let the council know is that Angie and I have been working on the records destruction, and it's been quite a fun adventure. We've so far last week reviewed 115 boxes, and we have about 15 to 20 to go. That's going through everything, so we have a pretty good destruction that we'll be putting together in the next few weeks for the, like actual destroying of boxes. There are quite a few boxes that were still in hold status because I want to do further review on those ones, but I'm really excited. That's a lot of boxes to clean out down below, and I really want to say a big thank you to Mike for his review and look over on everything as well. He's been a great help in making sure that this process is definitely vetted well. So that's been a great help. And to Gina, she also has been a tremendous help through all of this. It's Angie's first big destruction. We did a little one last year, so this was her first real big destruction since starting. Being that she's been here a year, it feels like a long time. Forever. But this is her first one, so that's why it's been really great to have this big group and have over 100 boxes so she can see that true magnitude of the type of thing that our staff works through year by year. We produce a lot of work, and so a lot of that's finance, and thank you so much, Gina, for your help on all that, especially in the middle of audit, so, or getting started for audit. The thing that I do want to point out here in my written report is the Sister City visit. Nate and I sat down with a couple of representatives from the Soroma Kai last week, and they've asked for a number from the City Council on who we would be thinking sending to Soroma Kai. I know this has been on the Council's radar for new members or those that haven't been in the deep discussions that I've had with some of you guys over the last few years. In 2020, it is the city's year, I guess, our opportunity to send 20 delegates over to Japan, our sister cities, not just as city representatives, you guys. That includes students and school district and borough. It's a whole group. There's only 20 available seats. And so they want to give us an opportunity first to say how many we're sending, and they'll fill in the rest of those seats. So they wanted to make sure that you guys knew that, but we do need the number, and I need the number. I am asking for council's direction. I know we've had some of the discussion here. Rough numbers is about $2,000 to send a person, because that covers the airline and any kind of transportation, things of that nature. But once everything is over, once the person goes over to Japan, it is expected that, expenses would be covered over there. So that's kind of additional cost. Again, I'm just looking at who at this point.
Then what does the maximum of 3 from the council cover this item also?
That did come up in our discussion, and I understand that we're traveling abroad, but Open Meeting Act is Open Meeting Act, and yes, it would be applied in this situation as well, that only three can congregate. So,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
And did you want to add to that, or were you waiting? Okay. Oh, yes. So it is one of those, we are limited to 3. In the past, when we went, we did send the mayor and the first lady. That is the only record that I can find of who we sent. And the city did cover both those costs.
Okay.
We will have the cost of a gift. And so all of this would be included in this year's, or the 2020 budget. But the traveling numbers, they need to start planning for that part of it. And then they are also asking for continued support for the scholarship that we provide that every year, a portion of the flight for the students. They're asking for us to continue that as well.
And the number of students they're gonna take is gonna depend on how many we have from the council or the staff. Or whatever. Okay. All right, I didn't know.
So yeah,
Okay.
that's exactly right. It depends on the number that we send, and then the next outreach. My understanding is that the next outreach would be to the school district board, the school board, and then it goes students. And I don't know if, the borough mayor or any of that level, they came and asked for our numbers first. It'll go to delegates, and then students will be after. Because the students travel every year, is my understanding.
Right.
I do have a meeting with them on the 18th.
Councilwoman Linda Combs?
If I might add a couple of things. First of all, this will be the 40th anniversary of the Sister City relationship. And it's every 5 years it gets celebrated. We take turns. In 2010, there was a delegation went from Palmer to Soroma. 2015, we had a awesome delegation come here. The student travel is usually separate from the group that you're talking about. when we did it in 2010, there were some students, but that was part of the regular student travel. And the delegates, everything that was planned in Seroma were for all adults. And that's another reason why they need numbers this far ahead of time, is they're already planning what they can do, you know, and you're taken care of very, very well once you're there. So, but extremely important relationship. I know I've mentioned it many times. When you walk into City Hall in the city of Seroma, you know that they have a sister city, because you are immediately faced with an area that is chock full of gifts that have been given to them by Palmer. Most of the citizens of the community will greet you. They all know about it. The town knows about the sister city. So it's an absolutely wonderful program. So 40 years, wow.
Okay, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
I was glad that you added that, and thank you very much for that history. At this point, I am just looking for direction from the council on what I can share with them with my meeting next week of kind of interest. Are we looking at wanting to reserve 3 or 6, because spouses, because that's our max. Do we want to say we're only, 1? That's kind of what I'm looking at.
Okay.
So,
Any, yeah?
Why not, huh? I would support sending 3, I think. I think it is a big deal. It is the 40th anniversary, as Councilwoman Combs said. So that makes sense to me. I'm not sure about the spouses, but I would support sending 3 council people. And with mayor and 2, I would see if the mayor could go.
Are you volunteering?
To go? No. As long as it's not me, no.
And I'll be one of the 2.
No. I will say I will not be going.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, I don't know either. I haven't talked to my husband or anything about it, and so. And
it's the,
Julie, what did you say? The date. It says in there, the 2nd and 3rd week of July. Yeah.
I don't, if I may, Madam Mayor,
Yes. Okay.
but I think, like I was getting from Councilor Deputy Mayor France, is that getting that commitment that, okay, 3. We will say that we could do 3 if, let's say, the budget comes out and we find that we can't. I'm pretty sure it'll be easy to fill the spots.
Okay.
But to try to fill the spots after all the spots are full, it was their concern.
Right.
So
Right.
I like that. That's great. Not specifically who.
Yeah, the question now would be whether it would be 3, 4, 5, or 6, right? Because of the spouses.
Oh, right. So
Yeah.
if we say we're gonna
So,
support 3 going,
we're not
then-
saying we're gonna pay for the spouses at
That's
this
right.
time,
yeah,
but holding the space, yeah, so the 6
Yes,
slots. So-
exactly.
So I don't know, we may wanna do that, that would probably be a high number, but then later on, if they said, okay, we really have somebody else that, and so is there any objections to the council, from the council regarding holding 6 spots then? Okay, alrighty.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
And
Any
so what
other
I'll do
direction?
is, no, other than at this point in time, when I prep the budget and provide that to the city managers, I will prep the budget with 6 council member, I was paying for 3 council members.
Right.
Okay.
Anything else in your report?
Nothing else in my report that stands out that isn't already written here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments to the city clerk regarding her report or anything else? Okay. Ready? The next thing is my report, and you have my written report. The clerk has already brought up regarding the airport open house from 4 to 6 on March 19th. And I plan on going, but I won't be off work until, a little bit after 5. So if we have a lot of people that want to go, we could easily have somebody go from 4 to 5 or something like that also. I am going to go to the community meeting on Thursday night. And I don't know, do we have 3 already for Thursday night?
Yes.
We do, okay. And, last Saturday, Senator Hughes had an open, forum at the Palmer Seniors, and, Linda was there as well as I was there. The only thing I spoke on was, at the very end, just trying to gather information. Senator Hughes did say during her dialogue that she thought that probably if there was going to be a new tax, the one new tax that would be a statewide sales tax. So at the end, and Linda can verify this, or if I don't say what I said, please add to it. I just encourage the senator to be sure and remember local control regarding the sales tax. And the one thing she did talk about is that they might do it as a seasonal one, or they might not do it on food and medical. Now, I believe ours already excludes medical, but of course we do tax food, and so I think I was pretty stern with her regarding local control, and that the other thing is that we do not want the state collecting our money and charging us an administrative fee and then sending it to us at whatever time they want to. Linda, you're welcome to chime in, but like I said, I think I was pretty emphatic with her.
I would use the word firm. I wouldn't use stern. I never think of stern when I think of you, Mayor DeVries.
Okay.
But you were firm about it, and it was perfectly okay. So there were 38 individuals that day. We went well over the hour. In fact, we went about almost 2.5. It was well attended. I thought everybody spoke very well. Once again, it was another great example of the democratic process in that everyone was respectful of each other's opinions, even if they didn't agree with it. That sort of thing. In our Senate, I want to give kudos to our senator. She has done this for many years. This coffee chat has grown from 6 or 7 people. Obviously this year with the governor's budget, I had spoken with her that we needed to use a venue that had a little bit more room because we were starting to get as many as 30 or more people for an hour-long quote-unquote coffee chat. So, but she's always been very open to that, and she answered questions. She didn't rush anybody. She took her time, and I think we should be very appreciative of that. She's obviously representing us to the best of her ability. But no, I think it was very well taken. Exactly what you said, Mayor DeVries, about the sales tax. I think that if that comes up, it's going to be a long time in putting together how it does work, because you can't just say we're going to do this sales tax because there's too many ins and outs and ups and downs, and no, we don't want to pay an administrative fee and that sort of thing. So, but you made it very clear. Nicely done.
Thank you. Yeah, I got to thinking later, I don't know what exactly the population, because the Kenai Peninsula Borough has it, Juneau has it. Does Fairbanks have? No, they don't. But the city does, yeah. So I was trying to think of, of our population of, whatever it is, 700, 800,000. how many thousands of people already pay a sales tax, and I don't know if that's like a third or a fourth of the population, because I think some of the bush communities also have sales tax. And, so I just don't know what kind of support may be out there, and so.
Well,
But,
some of the argument that I know the senator has brought forward, and some others has been, is they think it's a fairer way for added revenue. My personal opinion has been all along that the only ones that really think it's fair are those that do not live where there already is a sales tax, and the only large metropolitan area that has that is Anchorage. A lot of the villages, a lot of the smaller communities have at least a modest sales tax, as well as we have ours, and Wasilla has theirs, and it's been established for a long time. So I think it's just one of the ways it's going to be, bandied about. I'm not real confident that we're going to get a definitive answer this year, but in the meantime, it was perfectly. It was the right thing to do, is to remind those who will be making those kinds of decisions that there's a lot of ins and outs to it.
any other questions or comments regarding my report? Okay. Sabrina, you still, we don't want to ignore you out there, but please chime in.
Oh, I'm doing good, thanks.
Okay, all
I
right.
forgot to ask you, Madam Mayor, in regards to your report here, if you were planning on being at the Green Day Gallop and had you found your wig?
No, I haven't found my wig.
Okay, I found my green wig, so.
You found yours?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I did see some green stuff at Fred Meyer, so if I don't find my wig, I will buy some of that stuff. So anyway, Mike, do you have attorney's report?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you to the clerk for the kind words in my profession. Usually someone's telling me I'm wrong. With respect to the sales tax, I think that, Mayor, you're absolutely 100% square on with groceries. If you talk to anybody about sales tax revenues, one of the major sources is groceries. Mm-hmm. Palmer taxes those groceries.
Right.
And I think it's a good portion of the sales tax that is collected. The other thing, if you want to look to see what communities have sales tax, there's a publication on the state assessor's website called Alaska Taxable. Everybody can look at it and can look at all the communities and see what that publication states. I'm not sure if there's a compendium of all the communities that levy sales tax, but it'll tell you community by community whether they do. And there's also a great map you can get from DCRA. It's a regional map that shows the native regional corporations, and it shows all the boroughs and the populations of all those boroughs. I have one on my wall, so I can look and see where someplace is. And it would be a good one, perhaps, for you guys to take a look and see if you're interested in it. I think you're also right on with local control on our sales tax. We're a home rule municipality with liberal powers, and we can adopt a sales tax under our taxing powers, and that money comes directly into Palmer to benefit Palmer. Another, I think, good point to consider is there's a number of municipal officials throughout the state that are now in the legislature. And just recently, there's a freshman class of municipal officials that are in the legislature. And after a while, in my experience, I've seen this for a number of years, municipal officials sort of forget about the municipalities a little bit. It's not a criticism, it just happens. Your orientation changes. But when they're still new to the game, it's a good time to remind them of what they had to experience. And then one of our legislators, Mr. Showers, I think made a good comment I read in the newspaper that the reductions are not really budget cutting, they're just cost shifting. And they're cost shifting onto the municipalities, which are really not equipped to to absorb those costs. The municipalities are struggling to provide services and to do the best they can to keep those services. So I think that it's really important to remind people that our taxpayers should benefit from our tax revenues and our ability with the good offices of this council to decide what revenue sources will go to provide those services and not have an overriding state requirement that's going to charge us at least a 10% fee on our tax collections. The other thing that's really important that I think would inhibit a local sales tax, or I'm sorry, strike that, a statewide sales tax, is the municipality of Anchorage. And they have a charter provision that says they can only adopt a sales tax on a 60% majority vote, which I think is ridiculous. And so that should be something that's told to the legislators, and they probably know this when they're looking at Anchorage, because Anchorage will never get a sales tax on its own. So the representatives in Anchorage need to recognize that that charter amendment is inhibiting and could harm other municipalities if Anchorage doesn't have that sales tax. So I think the Anchorage Assembly should and probably is looking at those issues. I know throughout the years a number of assembly members never liked that 60% rule that was put in probably, gosh, I don't know, Mayor, you might remember 25 years ago. Yeah, a long time ago. But it's really, they should consider, I think, having a charter amendment to repeal that requirement, because why would you have a supermajority for a sales tax? You should just have a simple majority to do that. Anyway, that's my soapbox. I support you 100%, Mayor, and thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. You're welcome. Any questions on Mike's report? Comments? Okay. Alrighty, the next item on the agenda is audience participation. We invite anyone in the audience to address the council on anything that's on the agenda or of interest to the city of Palmer. 3 minutes if you're representing yourself, 5 minutes if you're representing the group. Audience participation is now open. He's just going to ask for it all, and then you're not going to get anything.
Mike Molesky, I live at 325 East Farway, Onegashimasu. I was privileged to go in 2010 with Linda Combs and John and my wife Lee to Soroma. And I just wanted to add a few more things. I'm also a board member of Palmer Soroma Chi, which is an organization that has been set up to support this relationship. And properly said, Linda pointed out that there really are two things that are going on with this. One is the sister city relationship between Palmer and Soroma, and the second one is the relationship between the school district and schools in Soroma. At our last board meeting, we identified two people who met with Nora to talk about the importance of planning. The people in Soroma plan well ahead. They have been doing this for a long time. I can tell you that personally, and I think I can speak for Lee to say that the visit there was extraordinary, and we took the opportunity to extend for another week and went down south as well. These numbers of 20, the importance there is to remember that they are going to support whoever goes in a very nice way. And it costs to do that. It costs time, money, and all the rest of it. And it also is obvious that if the council is going to support sending 3, if you're talking about a spouse that would like to go, then that has to be figured into your own budget to say, well, you're going to throw down $2,000 for that. I think the experience over the years has been that with good intentions for any trip of this sort, all kinds of things come up, get a health problem, this or that. Plus, there's a requirement to make sure you're making your commitment, getting the ticket, getting everything in order, et cetera, well in advance. So while many people would like to go, when we come on down to it, there's typically a situation where you'll have maybe 22 people in the queue with a couple of extra, and then there'll be a drop-dead date where you must make your commitments and get all the papers and all the rest to make that happen. But I certainly would encourage people to consider, if you haven't been there, to go. As board members of Palmer Sonoma Kai, when we get the numbers down and there's room, both Lee and I would be very happy to go again, in part because it's reacquainting with people that we have seen over the years when they've come here and we've gone there. So I just wanted to add that to what Linda has said and what Nora will be bringing forth later. So, domo arigato gozaimashita.
Anyone else from the audience that would like to talk to the council?
Yes.
Yeah, please. And and then go ahead and press the button so your red light comes on when you're ready to talk.
There it goes, okay. I'm Brooke Heppenstall. I'm a member of the Palmer Museum Board of Directors, and I know Sam made it back from Anchorage just in the nick of time, and I know that he has put in for another grant this year to help support the Palmer Museum's Garden and Art Fair. I believe this grant is important. The city has supported the Museum and Visitor Center in this endeavor for the last several years at this level, and I hope you'll continue to do so. This is not a commercially oriented event, and it takes this kind of support to pull it off. We're educationally based. We offer reduced fees to as many nonprofits, municipal and otherwise, that we can, to try to allow people to bring their message to the people of Palmer, but also the tourists and such like do come to see this event and to learn from it. It's all locally made and manufactured. We support the Palmer Arts Council's summer music students with this, and hopefully, if we get any help from the chamber, they'll keep it in this direction. So, once again, I want to thank you for your continued support that you've given us so generously in the past.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm the Executive Director at the Palmer Museum. I would also like to speak in support of this grant for the Palmer Midsummer Garden and Art Fair. If you went to last year's fair and you enjoyed it, you have that lady to thank right there. Brooke Heppenstall really went above and beyond in making it, like she said, not just a commercial event, but an event that promotes art in her community, that promotes music, that promotes gardening, that promotes putting energy into our town and, reaping something pretty amazing out of that. Like she said, I just came out from Anchorage. I was at a Visit Anchorage presentation talking to all their visitor center staff for the summer. And when I mentioned, I'm from Palmer, they're like, oh, you guys have the best fairs, you have the best markets. So, I think this is something that's worth investing in by the city. And it's also worth noting the budget that I submitted. This year has been affected somewhat by the state budget. There's some grant funding that we've gotten from several years that's no longer available to us. We've worked to overcome that. We've picked up some new local sponsors. We've made some new partnerships, but support from the city for this event helps us go above and beyond every extra dollar we get. We don't make money off of it. It goes right back into the musicians and promoting the artists and promoting the people and trying to draw, a quality lineup of presenters for the workshop. So just want to speak in support of that, and thank you very much for considering it.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience? Yeah. Come up.
Madam Mayor, council members, and staff, good evening. My name is Stu Graham. I'm the first vice president of the Alaska Municipal League, which, as most of you are well aware, represents over 150 different local governments throughout the state, which means that, and of course Palmer is a part of that. Sabrina Combs sits on the board of the Alaska Municipal League and is quite helpful in helping us determine directions to go. I just wanted to comment on the mayor's report today, where things were talked about. The budget cuts were talked about. Senator Hughes's town hall was talked about, and I'm certainly not going to criticize anything that anybody says, but I can say, from dealing with a wide variety of municipalities and cities, towns, and boroughs, that the voices that get heard best are the voices that offer an alternative or offer a solution to a problem. The voices that say we can't do that and then turn around and sit down are rarely considered, other than being, a tally on a tally sheet for or against. The voices that get heard and the voices that get the action and get the interaction are those that say, well, instead of a statewide sales tax, which would be a blanket sales tax, how about we do a sales tax on top of our sales tax that incorporates our exclusions, that incorporates our caps on things. So we, instead of, here in Palmer, instead of charging a 3% sales tax with the exclusions on medications and other things, and I believe it's $1,000 cap, instead of changing that, let's just change it to a 6% and keep the exclusions and keep the caps in place. And by the way, the city of Palmer will continue to collect that and then forward it on, in unincorporated areas. In unincorporated areas where there is no sales tax and there is no collection ability, then the state can collect that sales tax and do what they want. Now, I'm not suggesting that you forward that as an idea or anything, but I'm just saying that, when we come forward and we have alternatives, we are heard and we are part of the discussion, as opposed to just being someone who signs it on the sheet and says, I think that's a stupid idea. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
You needed to add that we would then charge the state an administrative fee for collecting their 3% and sending it to them.
Well, that would be the decision of the council, Madam Mayor. So. And I would support that.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council? Okay, seeing no one else, I'm going to close audience participation. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing on Resolution 19-011, appropriating $64,502 for additional engineering services for the wastewater treatment plant upgrades and authorizing the city manager to amend the professional services agreement with HDR Incorporated. Does the council want a staff report before we open the public hearing? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So what this is it's an extension of with our engineering firm who helped us negotiate with the EC and EPA going on 2 years ago. We anticipate going forward again once testing is done into doing some additional negotiation, which will require some engineering services. So this adds that portion on. It also facilitates our testing that we're doing now. This would come out of the enterprise fund. We've already accounted for this in our. We didn't appropriate it in our budget. This would come out of the unassigned reserve for the enterprise fund, so it would be coming out of the general fund. And we've raised rates for things like this over the course of time. So this wouldn't require us to raise rates. We've already done that. This would just be appropriating funds we thought we might need next year, but it looks like we'll need it this summer or next fall. So this extends that contract for the engineering services.
Further questions or comments? Okay. With that, I will open the public hearing on Resolution 19-011. Anyone in the audience is welcome to come and address. This time it will just deal with that resolution though. 3 minutes if you're representing yourself, 5 minutes if you're representing a group. Audience for our public hearing is now open for resolution number 19-011. Is there any objections from the council for me closing the public hearing? Okay, public hearing on resolution 19-011 is now closed. What is the wishes of the council?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve resolution 19-011. Comments, amendments, questions from the council? Councilman Carrington?
Just that I note that this is probably a very good thing since we have a phase 2 of this whole sewer plant that could be riding on how well we do on documentation and stuff. So I think this is a very good idea, very wise.
Okay. Any other comments? With that, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember David Fuller?
Yes.
Councilmember Sabrina Combs?
Yes.
Councilmember Linda Combs?
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Carrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Julie Berberick?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pete LaFrance?
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is Action Memorandum 19-032, approving a council community grant in the amount of $2,000 to the Palmer Museum of History and Art for the 2019 Midsummer Garden and Art Fair. What is the wishes of the council?
Madam Mayor, I move that the council approve action memorandum number 19-032.
Madam Mayor, before we go any further, I'm a member of a supporter of the museum, just declaring that. We've been a member for a while, for years actually, but all it is just basically I get a card and I get an advance notice on when the line walk tickets come out.
You're not a member of the board of directors? So
No
you're
ma'am,
just,
I am not. I am just a supporter, like a friend of the library.
Okay. I don't see that there's any objection there unless somebody else from the council feels that way. Okay? Yeah.
Then I'll second that.
Okay, all right, thank you. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve action memorandum number 19-032. Discussion, amendments, comments by the council. Councilwoman Linda Combs.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I consider this one of the absolute premier events here in Palmer because of the variety of individuals it brings to our community. I mean, it serves our community very well, but it does bring a lot of visitors. I have several friends in Anchorage who have, over the course of the last 3 to 4 years, they just plan on spending that whole weekend here. So it's not just that they're wandering around 50 vendors during the course of the day. They've spent the night before, or they're going to spend that night. They eat in our restaurants, etc. The pre-check I found to be very interesting. I found that since I also sat on the Board of Economic Development as they came up with this whole grant process and everything. So I always read them because I just want to make sure that it's being used the way we had intended it to be. And I believe it has with, and I do see that the city manager has recommended adoption, but the one thing that I would recommend and would like to see is just a little bit more of the, and I know it's always hard when a big event's over, but I would like to see the post-event report fleshed out, just so that we have those records for in the future. It helps future councils to make decisions and that sort of thing. So, but it just certainly has my my recommendation, my approval. Thank you.
Councilman Fuller?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to echo the same thing. I mean, I think that's something we've gotten lax with is the post-event report from the organizations. The metrics are really important and we need them. And I really encourage you to kind of give us some kind of, how much of an impact was this? Was it worth the bang, you know?
Any other comments? Okay. Madam Clerk, will you take the roll on the motion to approve action memorandum number 19-032?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember David Fuller.
Yes.
Councilmember Sabrina Combs.
Yes.
Councilmember Linda Combs.
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Carrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Julie Burbright.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pete LaFrance.
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is action memorandum 19-033, approving a council community grant in the amount of $2,000 to the Mat-Su Running Club to support the 2019 Who Let the Runners Out 5K and 1K run/walk. What is the wishes of the council?
Move to approve.
Okay. Second. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve action memorandum 19-033. What is the wishes of the council? Comments, amendments, thoughts? Councilwoman Linda Combs?
Well, it's the second time that they've asked for the funding, and they have the same number of points as the previous one, so I'm going to give this just as every bit as much of my enthusiastic support as I did the other requests for funding. And again, same thing. We just need a better accounting or post reports. It's going to become more difficult without that kind of archiving of that kind of information. I believe for the city manager as well as the council to handle this grant program. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from the council? Okay. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll then for the motion that's on the floor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilmember David Fuller.
Yes.
Councilmember Sabrina Combs.
Yes.
Councilmember Linda Combs.
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Carrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Julie Burbright.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pete LaFrance.
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next three action memorandums, if there's no objection from the council, I will just ask for one motion for all three of them, unless somebody wants to divide the question. Councilman?
Before we get there, could we get a update on like the first one?
Yeah. Good eye. Good eye.
The
If I may,
first
Madam Mayor?
one what?
Action
Oh,
memorandum
okay, yes, okay, go ahead.
So I'm assuming that you're talking about the Klondike Mike's, the actual, right here, the liquor license review form. As you notice here, finance does say that they are not current on their sales tax. They were contacted in between time of publication, and tonight they did come in and they are current.
And they got a business license also?
Yes, yes. So everything is current and good. We do recommend no, a statement of non-objection. And I have heard nothing, not received any remarks from the public on any of these since the publication of the packet either.
Alrighty. So what is the council's wishes regarding action memorandum 19-034, directing the city clerk to notify the state of Alaska, the city council's statement of non-objection to liquor license number 649 for Klondike Mike's Saloon located at 820 South Colony Way? And action memorandum 19-035, directing the city clerk to notify the state of Alaska, the city council's statement of non-objection to liquor license number 39 for Alaska State Fair. Action memorandum 19-036, directing the city clerk to notify the state of Alaska, the city council's statement of non-objection to liquor license 5566 for Matanuska Brewing Company located at 513 South Valley Way. What is the wishes of the council?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve all three of the action memorandums. Discussion, amendments, comments by the council? Okay, Madam Clerk, would you take the roll, please, for the vote? Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember David Fuller.
Yes.
Councilmember Sabrina Combs.
Yes.
Councilmember Linda Combs.
Yes.
Councilmember Steve Carrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Julie Burberry.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pete LaFrance.
Yes.
Mayor Edna DeVries.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
The next item on the agenda is record of items placed on the table. Madam Clerk?
We don't have any items tonight.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is audience participation. Anyone is welcome to come and address the council regarding anything that was on the agenda or anything that you think might be of interest to the council. Audience participation is now open. Press.
This is my opportunity to nag Nate. You are coming to the Garden Art Fair, right? The city, right? And you're gonna have a booth?
I'm not committing at this time.
That's okay, I'll call Wasilla.
Would you state your name for the?
Brooke Heppenstall.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the council?
Thank you very much for approving our grant, Sam Dinges.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to address the council? Okay, seeing no one, I will close the audience participation. Council, Dave Fuller, we'll start with you. I think we started with.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Last week.
Spring is here, and just to address the sales tax thing on a statewide level, I totally could disagree with you. I think we as a city are doing our due diligence of providing services for our citizens through a city sales tax. Implementing a sales tax on top of our sales tax doesn't make it doesn't incentivize to live within the city limits, and it puts a burden on us. My alternative is an income tax, but that's my 2 cents, and I've given you an alternative. Aside from that, I appreciate your opinion, but I disagree. And I'm glad the museum got what they needed, and I'd like to hear more about where your shortfalls are with the state grants that you're missing out on. Other than that, thanks a lot.
Councilwoman Linda Combs.
I agree with our colleague from up the road in Wasilla. One of the main things I've heard, and I heard it right at the governor's mansion when I was in Juneau last month, and that was, please offer solutions. Please bring us alternative ideas. And I have no problem with that. I just specifically happen to agree with Councilman Fuller. Those of us that already have a sales tax, it's an undue burden. And of course, my other hat, when I'm taking off my city council hat and I'm putting on my I'm speaking for senior citizens across the whole state of Alaska hat, is it's an undue burden, particularly for our elderly. So enough said about that. I thought the mayor did a brilliant job. I also think that our senator's doing a terrific job under the circumstances. I'm looking forward to the Green Day Gallop. I did find my green wig. I found my sweater with all the shamrocks on it, so I will be there. I intend to listen to the city manager tomorrow at the Chamber of Commerce. And I know he'll do an awesome job in representing the city and making sure that our Businesses are brought up to date on what's going on in our city. One of the promises that I made to the Chamber of Commerce, to the city of Palmer in 2011 when I first ran for this office was that I would attend Chamber of Commerce meetings. And most of our businesses do not have business owners that live in our city limits, unlike our lovely Julie down here. So I remember making that promise to them that if it didn't matter to me whether they could vote for me or not, but that I would be there every week or as much as possible, and that I would represent them. I would get them the answers. They have honored me and let me know that I've kept my promise since 2011, 2 weeks ago, by giving me the 2019 Pioneer Award, the highest recognition the Chamber of Commerce can give an individual. So I'm really, really pleased about that. There's a couple projects I've worked on over the last 30-some years in this community, but that's one that I really took to heart at the time because I wanted a strong relationship between our business community and the City Hall. And I'm very, very pleased that everybody at this table feels the same way, and we've all worked very hard to do that. So that's enough for tonight. Thank you.
Councilwoman Sabrina Combs, do you have comments?
Just that I'm sorry to be disruptive tonight with my phone continuing to disconnect, but I appreciate being able to call in and hope you're all doing well.
Councilwoman Julie Berber?
I would just say that it seems that I'm always out of town on the Midsummer Arts Festival, so I've never, and once again this year I will be out of town again, but I appreciate you coming and addressing us this evening. That's nice, and unfortunately that also means that the Soroma trip I will not be in next year, 2020. Oh, 2020, that's right. Okay. Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that. Awesome. And that's it. And happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. I was speaking with a teacher at a local school the other day, and they commented specifically on the school resource officer and her role in diffusing a conflict that happened recently. And so I'd just like to tip my hat to her and also the Palmer Police Department for putting a very capable officer in that position. So thank you for that. I also heard from a different person how great our Library Kids program is. And this individual is actually a resident of that city over that way. And it comes into Palmer specifically because our library programs for kids are so tremendous. So hats off to the librarians who are putting that together. And last few things, obviously the Green Day Gallop is this coming weekend. I foolishly signed up for a 50K ski race the day before, so I might be hobbling through that, but we'll see how that goes. And then the following weekend is Crazy Lazy Race, which has been full up for the last month. So in the next few weeks, Palmer becomes Alaska's running epicenter, and that's really exciting and fun.
Councilman Carrington?
Well, I don't know how many council people are going to the Mayor's Green Day Gallop, but I saw a young man I knew at the IT Expo wearing a green wig, and so last night I was negotiating with him to see if I could claim it. So I'm trying to work on it.
And I guess the only thing I would like to say is that when we beat up on 1/3 of our audience participation, with that I'll adjourn the meeting.